So, Joe Biden has bowed out of the US presidential race for 2024 and has thrown all his weight behind Kamala Harris. Very exciting, especially for us. We are Indians. So, we'd like to see a Indian origin woman fighting in the race. But the question is, what kind of a chance does Kamala Harris have so late in the race to be to even if she gets chosen as the potential candidate, what exactly is going to happen? So I'm going to be discussing this with Arnav and Manish Adhikari, and let's just jump right into it. I think nothing's going to happen. It's sort of written now. Trump is going to win, and he said it himself. It's going to be probably easier. You have your own mind.
I have my own. Honestly, I have never been a great believer in Kamala Harris. I saw her campaign.
It's Kamala.
Indians call her
C-O-M-M-A.
Kamala, I guess.
Her children call her Momala. It's factually true, though.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And the Americans call her C-O-M-M-A,
Kamala. But
Kamala.
we are Indians. Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris, okay. I've never been the greatest believer in Kamala Harris, her promise. In 2019, I saw the debates. Initially, she had a lot of promise. People compared her to Obama, said, oh, she'll be the second coming of Obama. She had that until a certain point when her campaign just started falling apart. And there were many issues to that. Okay, it wasn't just the fact that it was badly organized or that her sister was way too involved or there was confusion about who was running the campaign. There was also the fact that she could not enunciate her own issues properly. She could not decide if she's liberal, if she's center-leaning in her own party, where exactly she stands. So her campaign just sort of, it fizzled out towards the end because there was not a lot of organization, not a lot of leadership coming from the top. Now, I am not saying people can't change in 4+ years. She's been the vice president. She's had an important job, decent responsibility, towards the latter half at least. So she could have changed and all that. But I don't know. I personally would actually give the edge to Trump as well in this regard.
Right.
If,
So I think,
if Harris is the one who comes out as a candidate.
yeah, I think to sum up what you said, I think if anyone were to ask me what does Kamala Harris stand for, it's a very difficult question to answer. From going back all the way to the Democratic primaries when she was in the race for the presidential ticket, and there was this implosion, and obviously Biden ran away with the ticket, went on to become the president. I think the Black Lives Matter movement, etc., George Floyd protests after Floyd's death, and what happened went a long way in Biden picking her as his running mate back then. Gave her career a second life.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you were to ask me what is her campaign call going to be, I'm not too sure, which doesn't put her on a very strong wicket.
But I do feel that towards the end of the presidency, and especially when the Roe versus Wade decision came out, she has been kind of enunciating well on the abortion issue, and she's sort of become the face of the Democrats that has been constantly talking about the women, their right to choose, and their control over their bodies. So that issue is something that you associate with Kamala Harris, and maybe I'm a woman, so I associate it more with her, and I've seen some of her speeches regarding that. But yes, I will agree with what both of you are saying, is that there is no separate identity that Kamala Harris managed to create or carve, even when she was in the office, not just during her election days. Even when she was in the office, it's not something that you would say, oh, even Biden as a VP was known for his goofiness. I'm just saying, like, it's you have an identity that people start associating with, and they connect with you. So Kamala Harris, apart from being that race card that we like to use in politics, I think she just became a set of optics.
Though again, we're all assuming that she'll be the one who will take over the party ticket. Currently, even that is not certain. Biden, of course, has nominated her. He said, okay, she will be my successor. Now, he can't actually promise any of that. Okay, the delegates, 4,000 plus Democratic delegates, they have the choice. They will decide ultimately. There's no obligation on them. it's a bit of a legally it's a bit of a confusing issue because some states have laws about what delegates are supposed to do in this regard. Some states don't. It's hard to say what will exactly go down. And currently, there are at least a few top Democrat leaders who are not very keen on Harris. At least they're not very openly supporting her. So you have Obama, you have Nancy Pelosi, who's talking about an open convention. She wants a bunch of people to have a bit of a one-off, have voting happen, raising hands, all of that. She wants to go through that route, and I imagine her reason for doing that is because if they just try to force Harris onto all of the delegates, may not come across as the best impression. So having her go through the whole process, essentially,
She has to earn her delegates.
yeah, will
So-
give her legitimacy.
So you're right about the legalities involved. Apparently, the Republicans are already complaining about how the Democratic Party, has sidelined Biden. Well, because in fact it was Biden who won the ticket, right? Because in last year's primaries, etc. But apparently, there's going to be a virtual roll call, which may or may not happen depending on how the legalities pan out. So their convention is mid-August, sometime
End
in
August, August
16th
20,
of-
22nd,
yeah.
something like that.
So there, so we might actually, before the convention happens, if the virtual roll call happens, and the Clintons are backing her. A lot of people are surprised that Obama did not sort of back her, publicly. He hasn't done it so far, and Obama apparently wields a lot of influence within the party. So do the Clintons, but apparently the big money bags are now veering towards Harris because she's like the most natural inheritor of the campaign, so to say. Apparently, I was just reading a few hours back. She has taken over the campaign committee's Twitter account and things like that. So most likely she's going to be the face because there's hardly any time. For example, we were talking about how we don't really know what a campaign call is going to be. Usually presidential candidates take months to pick their vice presidential their running mate, right? And she has to do this in weeks.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting times if you like things like this.
You know what? The convention is going to be a chaos. So it's going to be a very interesting chaos. How hot mess, we'll all be keeping our eye on it. But let's talk about Biden bowing out. One interesting thing that I saw, which I was mentioning to Manish also, was that the amount of goodwill that's coming from across the world. I mean, it's internal politics, US internal politics, and there are presidents and prime ministers tweeting about Joe Biden not fighting another election. So I was pleasantly surprised to see that, In fact, the Scotland's prime minister has called him proudly Irish at heart also. So there was an immense amount of bonhomie and kinship he enjoyed with a lot of leaders. Trump, of course, did pretty well in international relations, considering the fact that he can be so protectionist. But with Kamala Harris, people don't really know what's her stand on Israel. She's hot sometimes on Israel, sometimes cold. What's her stand on, of course, Ukraine, she'll probably toe the line. But Israel might be worried right now. What do you guys think about foreign policy? And
Like I said, during her 2019 thing, she never had a clear stand on these issues. She had a stand, she would stand by that. But then if someone pushed her on that, she would back away way too fast. That was the perception she gave to a lot of people back then. So I don't know. The Israel issue is clearly a huge one for the Democratic Party, staring them in various separate ways. So I don't actually know what her stand would be beyond just going with whatever Biden was doing, which in itself is a little confusing if you think about
that's
it.
like living under Biden's shadow.
True. And the other interesting thing that's happening, she's going to face off against Trump most likely. I mean, if she gets the ticket, that is. That is a huge ask after the whole assassination attempt, and this tremendous popularity that Trump seems to have, the most polarizing candidate of all time. Now talking about unity and stuff. But beyond that, there is what from if you go to Twitter, etc., you see this rather overt puppification that's going on with Kamala Harris. And that's not to say this has just started. It has been going on, especially on matters like on Ukraine, for example. I think she one time she said Ukraine is a country next to Russia or something of that sort. And there are these right-wing pro-Trump supporters who who specifically point out the way she laughs. A lot of people call her, Cackala, because, on her name, etc. And then there's this whole smear campaign that I'm guessing will build up. Usually happens with, people who fight presidential elections. All the skeletons come out, etc. So and there is one specifically that comes out in the context of Kamala Harris, and which is in her 30s. She was dating a man who was in his 60s, a man called Willie Brown, who was, I think, the Speaker of Columbia, of California. And apparently some of her first political sort of, jobs were thanks, according to her critics, to Willie Brown, right? So these are the things that are going to be talked about a lot. She has to brace for it, because if she's happy about having come very close to the ticket, it's not going to be an easy road.
I think all the presidential hopefuls have to brace for that. I mean, Biden was called a groper, Trump a sexual predator. So these are the things that will fly, accusations like that, and she will have to cope up with it. But one thing is for sure, Kamala Harris has a very strong chance of now getting into the race and maybe facing off with Trump. Hillary Clinton couldn't do it. I was very hopeful at that time. I was like, oh, this glass ceiling is going to be broken. Clinton couldn't do it, but we'll be keeping our eyes on the US election to see whether Kamala Harris gets an opportunity to even try to do it or not. What do the Dems do about it? Do keep watching our channel for all the latest updates and news on the US election. Also, with an eye of the Eastern world and the subcontinent as well.